Good evening.
Hello.
We
Hello.
finally got ourselves all together. So tonight we are talking about the elements of collaboration. We're not talking about the elements air, earth, fire, water, ether, but the elements that are necessary. We could say the ingredients that are necessary for effective collaboration to occur. And so tonight joining me, I've got Amanda, who's in lockdown in Australia. I've got Marianne, who isn't in lockdown in New Zealand. I've got Glynis, who is exiled to Vanuatu. And I've got Sarupa, who's in the UK and dodging a bullet every time she goes anywhere. Between us all, we're doing okay. So we've got a few people have joined us already. We've got Pia and Haresh, Caroline, Orla, and Elaine. Nice to have you with us. So let's talk about what are the elements of collaboration. What do you feel, each of you, what do you feel, let's start and then the conversation will take off. What do you feel is an important element to have for a good collaborative process? You don't have to put your hands up, you just
put my hand up. I was pondering this in the shower before today, and for me it was acceptance.
Okay.
There was, because I was obviously looking at it from a point of view of when I have pretended to collaborate, but there hasn't been an acceptance of myself and others. So for me, it was like acceptance is a key ingredient of collaboration. And then there was harmlessness, and then that thing of knowing who you are. If you accept yourself. Oh,
whoa! If you carry on, we won't need the other three.
Oh. See, I'm not collaborating.
That's exactly it. You see, you said that you struggled with collaboration. So that's a very good example, Sarupa. Thank you. Okay, so for yours, it's acceptance. What about the other three members?
For me, it's about being authentic, and that probably comes from acceptance. But if we want to truly collaborate, we need to be honest, we need to be ourselves, we need to be who we really are.
Well, you've done exactly the same as Sarupa. So that's two people that don't know how to collaborate. You can't say one quality without trying to bring 24,000 in. It's really good, isn't it? And it's hard. Stick to, this is my piece to say, and only this piece. Okay, Marianne, what do you think?
Well, mine is probably about agreeing with the other two, but also saying there's trust and respect and honesty. So
you see, you've done the same.
Okay, honesty.
So there's three people. We've got a panel here to talk about
We're really bad at collaborating.
What do the audience think about this? We've got a panel here to talk about collaboration. We've already got 3 out of 4 that don't know how to collaborate. Amanda, perhaps you...
No pressure.
No pressure, no.
Well, I think the collaboration doesn't happen very often. I think we share sometimes. I think we cooperate a lot, but not much collaboration. As collaboration, there's got to be mutual respect, or not got to be, but that's an element for me.
That is very good. You see, Amanda's collaborated. I asked for one thing from each of you, and Amanda gave us one thing. So what have we got? Pia says connection and conversation. That's 2 things, Pia. Cogs in a wheel, that's 3 things. So Pia doesn't know how to collaborate either. So, all joking aside, collaboration seems to, we found this when we had the conversation last time. People struggle with collaboration. We think it's sharing, but if it's sharing, does that mean we share everything? No. If you were employed to be a writer, you would write. Would you create videos?
Not necessarily.
No.
No,
probably
because
do.
you're a writer.
It's someone else's job.
Exactly. Collaboration is bringing together people, in my world, bringing people together to share their strengths. So you have the best of a variety of things that can come together to create a good outcome.
Mm.
If we get caught up in it's got to be this, it's got to be that, it's got to be the other, it's going to be interesting. Anita says it's teamwork. Is it teamwork?
Well, in my experience, a lot of teams have people that aren't equal because there's a boss and an expert, and it's cooperation rather than collaboration sometimes.
Okay, so it's not necessarily teamwork. Annam says you need a listening ability. Doris says you need to be willing to be vulnerable. Elaine says you need to have an awareness of your role, which comes back to, are you a writer and therefore do you create videos?
Mm.
And Haresh says you need to have a common purpose. And that's true. If we're going to collaborate on something, tonight's a collaboration, but we have a common purpose to talk about collaboration. We're not talking about the price of rice in China. We could.
It has gone up.
It has gone up, yes. It's gone up a lot. We could.
I'm not surprised with this pandemic.
No, we could talk about collaboration in terms of a pandemic and what collaboration means in terms of a pandemic. But it's the elements, do we have those elements within us? And do we know how to use them? You don't seem to think so, do you, Amanda? You seem
I guess being in lockdown, there's a big requirement on collaboration. I think there's a lot of cooperation and there's a lot of rebelling.
Mm-hmm.
And I find myself getting annoyed at people who don't do the right thing. So, yeah, there's a bit of me that judges that.
Yeah. Sarupa, what about you? Because UK's got the virus, but there's no lockdown, there's no limitations. You've come out of that. So how do you find collaboration? Is there an element there that you think would be good for us all to look at?
I think so. My analogy would be that the UK is collaborating with its belly, so it's all about the me, because it's become about the it's all about the economy, and getting that and showing that we're growing faster economically than any other country post-pandemic. Hey, look at us, which is probably very much where I've collaborated from in the past, my belly. So it's all about me. What can I do? How can I look the best? How can I have the best idea? But the collaboration with the pandemic was always about moving us into the heart for the greater good of the we. And the UK's hiccuped, unsurprisingly, on its belly and on the me energy. So that had I listened before, or had I not listened and continued when you asked the first question, that would have been another element of collaboration, is we, not me. And I agree with Amanda. I think that those elements are missing, and sometimes I wonder, is that kind of why the pandemic was sort of born in the divine story that we're in, because we all look at our navel and not through our heart.
Good point. What do the rest of you think about that? What does the audience think about that? I think that's a valid point, Sarupa.
Well, I think that no question there's been a lot of collaboration throughout the pandemic. And a lot of people do collaborate with what they're asked to do, but it's fraying a bit at the edges in Australia, I have to say.
I'd say it's fraying a lot around the edges in Australia.
Yeah, it's very
according to the reports that we get here.
It's interesting to observe Australia compared to how it was handled in New Zealand. but it's very hard because of the politics in so many different states with different jurisdictions and rules. So everyone doesn't have to collaborate, but hopefully they will get to a stage where they have to, because the whole country is just going to be impacted if they don't.
So here's a question.
Yeah.
Let me ask this question. Because Australia has a lot of states, not as many as America, but it's the same thing. You've got states that have power for their own area and then a central government. When it began, it seemed to me that each state was trying to prove that it knew best how to solve the problem.
Yeah.
Instead of getting together and saying, let's share ideas and see what we can do nationally. That's, I mean, I'm on the outside looking in, so I could have been completely wrong, but that's how it appeared to me. And to me, that would have been a collaboration.
Yeah. Well, originally, last year there was, and a lot of people got together and a lot of organisations got together. But then there was some elections, and the state leaders decided to take advantage and politicise, and hey presto, forget about the greater good. It's about me.
So that we got lost in the me.
For short-term gain.
Okay. Excuse me a minute, Glynis. Does anybody in the audience have a question while we are talking? Because we're waiting for people to talk to us. It would be really nice. Thank you. Glynis.
I was going to say that in Vanuatu, the country has benefited from outside collaboration in terms of receiving the vaccine through the COVAX scheme. And within the country itself, the border has been closed for a year now. And with most of its income coming from tourism, it means that financially it's been hit hard. However, there is a we mentality here. The word you, me, Y-U-M-I means you and me. And people talk about you, me all the time. So whenever they experience hardship, they do come together in community and look after one another. And that's very evident here. They have nothing financially.
Is that collaboration? Or is that something else?
It might be survival. Their politics in Vanuatu aren't collaborating.
Oh, the politics are messy.
Yeah.
The politics are definitely messy.
So do the people that come together only come together when somebody is struggling and try to help that person? Or is there a collaboration amongst the people of Vanuatu to create a pathway to support each other until this hopefully ends?
No, there isn't the latter.
Okay, so we don't have a collaboration. We have a cooperation, as Amanda said, but we don't have a collaboration. Okay.
Yeah.
Doris says she observed the same thing in Switzerland. It's the me, me, me. Yeah, Anita, many countries doing their own thing versus many countries working together. Haresh. Yeah, separation in outlook between people and their governments. It's worth looking at why. I think that's a valid comment, because I think that the people in government have forgotten that they're there to look after the people, not tell the people what to do to look after them. Sally says, here in Tasmania, there's a variance at a state level in collaboration to other states. I'd say it goes further than that, Sally. I think Tassie's saying, we're okay, Joe. You're not coming here until you get your act together. Which is not such a silly idea. Mandate is not looked at as a whole country. Yeah. I think each state looks after itself, and I think that's when we get into trouble. Sharon. Different states are in agreement with lockdowns, but those who don't feel safe with the laws and rules are seen as those not collaborating for the highest good, but they believe that they are. Those who don't feel safe with the laws and rules are seen as those not collaborating. Well, they're not collaborating. Yeah, they're not collaborating. Okay, Ola.
Right.
I feel like governments are sensing lockdown fatigue and are jumping on the opportunity to move from the we to the me. Yeah, making it about the economy, which is what the governments want to focus on. So there's a couple of things there. There's the comment that Sharon made, and the comment that, that the one from Sharon, that people don't feel safe with the rules and the laws. Does that give people permission to do their own thing?
Well, it probably gives them the inner green light to think they can. But also, just listening to those comments that you read and the conversation is the fact one of the elements that stops collaboration is the competition, isn't it? If we're having these interstate in Australia, even into Europe, and on a global level, because even John talked about it, because I never understood last year when it all kicked off, how comes we're all doing it so differently? So New Zealand closes its borders, the UK has never closed its borders, and then gets upset that we've got new variants in or things aren't going right. It's that competitive energy of needing to be first past the post, the first to freedom, the first to whatever. So I guess it's a question, but then there's healthy competition too in a generic sense. And my question is competition anti-collaboration completely?
Well, I think it's entitlement. I think
I agree.
Prepared to change. And here is a golden opportunity to change, to reset, to do things differently. People talked about that a lot last year. And no, this year it's all what I want now. You're not allowed to here, you're not allowed to sort of go out in, groups of 2 and 3. But we're going to get coffee, so that doesn't count. It's kind of, everybody's sort of saying, well, that applies to everyone else.
Yeah.
Not everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on, Glynis, and then
I was going to say it goes even further, perhaps in some places, with people arguing that it's my right, it's my human right to be able to state what I'm going to do. So they're looking at it from an individual point of view rather than a collective point of view.
So what Sharon's gone on to say, I think you're right, Glynis, they feel controlled. Where is the collaboration there? Well, I think that, I'm sorry, Sharon, but I don't agree. People do feel controlled, yes. But in a situation such as a pandemic, you can't have a collaboration between Joe on the street and the ruling government, because everybody on the street is going to have a different thought and idea. And you're never going to please everybody. The government has to say, this is what we're going to do, right or wrong, this is what we're going to do. And as we go through it, we'll find out whether we made a wise choice or not. I know when we went into lockdown last year, a lot of people slammed Jacinda, not in New Zealand, but a lot of people outside slammed her for being a panic artist. Well, we have been very, very blessed as a result of her saying, we're going to stop it now.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean that we're perfect and everybody else is not. It just means that she took a stand and she invited the population to share that stand with her. She didn't ask them to collaborate. She asked them to share that stand. I think the problem for places like the US and Australia is there isn't one stand being asked to be taken.
Yeah.
No.
You've got different states with different stances. And so people think, well, how come we've got to do this, but they don't have to do that? I think that could be a big problem. Annam says there's so much blame in Australia in terms of political leadership. And that's rubbish, because they stepped up, they're souls who stepped up to be here at this time to do whatever they chose to do as part of their journey. And the people that voted for them need to stand with them while they do it, or say to them, look, I supported you, but what about this? But blame doesn't get anybody anywhere. I think she's right. I think Annam's right. There's so much blame. So we've got onto the pandemic, which was not what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about elements of collaboration rather than an outcome. So what we're saying is that to have a genuine collaboration, we need a common goal.
Mm.
A quality that I think is very important is honesty.
Yep.
Because what I've noticed in groups that come together, particularly in working with groups of people, is people aren't honest.
They're politically correct.
You get a group of people together and they won't rock the boat and they won't say the wrong thing. So you're right, Amanda, they're politically correct. How can you have a genuine collaboration when there's not enough acceptance, trust, and authenticity to say, yes, I hear what you're saying, however, this is how I see it? Because that's a collaboration. Yeah?
Yep.
How do people in the panel, not the panel, yes, I'm going to ask the panel, but how do people in the audience feel about that? Do we speak our truth? We don't have to yell it. We don't have to argue with people, but do we speak our truth? When we want to collaborate with other people, are we yes people, no people, or do we stand in our light and share what it is that's our perspective?
I think we're still so afraid of being wrong that we can become yes people, and we're also so affronted if somebody was to say, yes, I hear you, however, this is how I see it, because if we're not sure about who we are or where we're standing, somebody else's perception or way of seeing something can make us feel affronted, because it can trigger that part of us that feels less than or unequal if we haven't resolved it. So there's another element, I guess, I'd add in, is there's the kind of integrity of doing the inner work to show up in the best way that you can, because otherwise you can just show up in the pajamas, unwashed, and expect everybody else to carry you and take care of you, and that's not a collaboration.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Or you can show up with a front on, saying, I know best, but inside you don't, and then you won't allow anybody to disagree.
Because you'll panic, won't you? You'll panic that, three of them said this, and this is what I was thinking, and they're the wrong, and then you just think, you know what, I'm going to walk away from this. So, and I look at my life and how many times I've walked away from things because it did but I wasn't willing to acknowledge that it was affronting me and that there was a piece in me to resolve. It wasn't the collaboration that was wrong or me wrong. It was just showing me something amazing to deal with that I refused.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Amanda?
I think that there's such a culture in many places of political correctness that and people have forgotten how to have conversations. And sometimes you might try to have a conversation about a sensitive issue and people just shout you down.
And sometimes
you never get invited back.
True, but sometimes they don't want to hear because they're afraid that somebody else will hear and they'll get cancelled. It's weird. Alan says we don't like feeling uncomfortable by others not agreeing with us. Is it that, or is it that we're afraid that if we're at odds with other people, they won't want to interact with us?
Yeah, I think they won't like us.
So how do we set up a true collaboration?
Well, I think it's what Sarupa's talking about it starts within.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. If we aren't at one within ourselves, heart and mind, it's very hard to stand in our truth in front of other people. Because if we're not at one within ourselves, it's easy then for a comment by somebody else to cause us to doubt ourselves.
So is that one the same as alignment, or is that different?
You can align your chakras without being at one with universal light. If you've got the 8th chakra closed off, you can be aligned here. Mental and emotional can be aligned, but not spiritually. Being at one, you're at one with your higher self.
And that's and that definitely has been the missing piece for me in collaboration. Spirit, my higher self is always, because it became about me.
And of course, we know best. Ha ha ha.
Well, I do.
Harish says, New Zealand's worked well because of the collaboration between the different cultures, where the past has been addressed to move forward. It removed resentment. Not quite, but it's not quite, but it's in a better place. There are still, not resentments, but there are still areas of strong disagreement in New Zealand. But it's not a forbidden topic. And I think that's what makes the difference. Collaboration is possible because it's a topic that people talk about now where they never used to. Whereas if you can't talk about it for fear of upsetting people, you can't resolve it. And Orla says, people don't want to hear because it might challenge firmly held beliefs. Oh, yeah. I've thought this forever and I don't want you to change my mind.
Yeah. Or people don't want to face what they don't want to see.
Yeah.
They want to face the truth.
So if we're going to start a collaborative endeavour, how would we do it?
I think a code of conduct is, or something, the rules of which to operate by is a good way to start. Obviously, self-alignment's really important, but just a common purpose and some rules.
But people don't like rules, Marianne, because you shouldn't tell me what to do. That's their attitude.
But it could be sort of guiding principles or just some ideas about how best the conversation might move along, might work.
So the rules can be developed together with people.
Say that again, Marianne?
The guiding principles or rules or whatever you want to call them could be worked with the group of people so that there's an agreement on what they are moving forward.
So you've got 50 people. Good luck with that.
Okay.
Good luck with that. What were you going to say, Glynis?
I was saying we could perhaps focus on the qualities that we would like to encourage. So things like being honest, being kind, being respectful. Of course, everybody will have different ideas about it, but it's a start.
So have we not got one?
Have we not got one? What do you mean?
Have we not got a start?
Start with the vision, do we not? The common ground.
Have we not got a start? And I'm asking all of you.
We've got the 7 spiritual truths.
Yeah. Have we not got a start?
Well, we've got. We
do
have a collaboration, don't we? This within
collaborating with spirit.
Community is what we're doing. What we do together on Facebook, how we come together in different ways, so that it's already there. So I don't think it but it's, for me, just being part of this conversation is looking at where I'm disempowering the collaboration when I make it about me. So, and looking at where I can empower it by being honest, trusting, respectful, listen, acceptance and all the things, all the elements that we've talked about, because I probably have never looked at that within me. It's either been a front or I'm not interested. It's been very black and white. So it's about now how I can show up and where I am part of a collaboration, where I'm part of a community in a different way, so it can be empowered to a kind of different conversation, a different energy, different way of being in the collaboration.
So I'm still asking the same question. Have we not made a start? Do we have to start again?
No.
It's all here.
So why do we need rules?
We're developing them.
Why do we need rules, and why do we need guiding principles? I'm finding this interesting. And I'm asking the audience this. Why do we need rules and guiding principles?
Are they boundary? I mean, can they not be? I'm not saying that we necessarily do, but if we are they bound? You know, can they not be boundaries? As we grow, the boundaries will change. Whether they become, you know, shorter, taller, or we're ready for different types of boundaries. But are they not just boundaries from within where we operate?
What's the community about? What's Insight Teachings about? What's the community about? You've been operating within two systems that don't have rules and regulations, that encourage people to be honest, authentic, truthful, accepting. All of the words you've used have been there right from the beginning, and you didn't see it. And that's why collaboration fails. Because the first step of awareness isn't there. Yes, you've got to be self-aware and know what your buttons are. You need to be aware of the environment in which you're in. Annam's actually put where love and learning leads the way. It's actually where love and learning walks hand in hand. That's John's mission statement. And Insight Teachings is where knowledge becomes wisdom. But all the way through, the emphasis has been upon acceptance and love and standing in line. And yet we're having a conversation about collaboration as though it's not started yet. And I don't think that's just what's happening with the panel. I think it's what's happening in the groups too. As though we've got to reinvent the wheel. We've got to start from the beginning. No, we've got a beginning. We've got a foundation.
Yeah, we do.
It's how we build on it. It's if we choose to build on it, not how, if we choose to build on it. So what does the audience feel about that? Or don't you feel we already have it? Do you think we need to scrap it and start all over again? Do we just chuck everything out and have a meeting of how many people? There's quite a few people in the community. Should we all get together and have a meeting and decide what the new rules and regulations are, what the new mission statement is?
No, thank you.
No. That makes it a corporation, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
Oh dear.
But
This
do you
is
see
we're
what I
work
mean?
in progress.
But can you see how that blindness, I'm calling it blindness, and it might seem harsh, but that lack of awareness, what's happening out in the world where COVID is concerned. People aren't being able to see areas where there is the opportunity to learn and to be heard and to listen and to move forward. Here we go. What have we got? Anita says we already have it. Haresh says both encourage open-hearted awareness, which is the foundational energy. No, we don't need to. I don't think we need to reinvent. I'm biased, I have to admit. I'm biased. And Doris says, so now it's how we're going to build on it. Yeah. And that's about you. That's about all of you. Mandy says, no way, I'm not starting all over again.
I think there's another element that we've just sort of demonstrated, and that's being lighthearted.
Yes.
You know, having fun. Collaboration is not meant to be serious and heavy.
And it's about being able to laugh at ourselves. Everything is so serious.
We're such idiots.
Yeah. So Orla says, I think we may have a habit of thinking we always need to start again. We've talked about this in regard to meditation too recently. We always talk about it. Every time it's like, oh, well, we could do this. Well, why don't we just change what we're already doing? If that's where we need to go, because that's how we learn.
Yeah.
And Elaine says, it's all there. It's why we're there in the first place. It's what pulled you in. And then we kind of thought, well, when are we going to start? When does the show begin? Well,
it's already started.
There's an old saying, there's no show without punch. Punch and Judy show can't happen if you haven't got punch. There's no show without punch. And you lot in the community are punch. Okay, here we go. So this is an example of Australia. It has mateship as a motto and cooperation for the most part, except during a pandemic. Yeah.
Interesting.
So we've all been collaborating without knowing we were collaborating because everybody joined in one way or another for one purpose or another and shared who they were with other people. It falls apart when people try to be more to feel better. But when everybody's happy to contribute, everybody benefits. We've got collaboration. Okay, I'm exhausted now. So what's our conclusion? Did we come to a conclusion or did we just waffle?
Came to a conclusion. We did come to some conclusions. The fact that we've been blind to seeing it exists already, and the lovely elements that we've all talked about, I think are really great reminders for some, perhaps, but definitely great conclusions, for me to have heard. So yeah, and like all topics, I don't feel like we're done.
No, we're not. No, we're not. And do we need some big major project to show that we know how to collaborate?
No.
No.
No, because we have good discussions.
Yeah.
And we do collaborate. We meet regularly and do meditations and do all sorts of things together. So we're cooperating and collaborating all the time.
Yeah, and that energy goes out.
Really important.
Yeah, and that energy is going out into the world all the time, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, we've got a common purpose.
Do we need to get a pat on the head to show that we've been doing a good job?
No.
No.
Do we need to have our name in lights to show that we've achieved?
No.
No. So that means we won't be going on Oprah. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Darn.
You won't get free gifts.
I don't want to go on Oprah. I never did. Collaboration is far simpler and comes more naturally than we may have thought, Orla says. Elaine says, the conversation feels like a collaboration towards understanding, and went on to say, it's great to hang out together like this. So, shall we do it again?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, let's have some topics, please, people. Send me or post on this post topics that you would like us to discuss or not. And we can see what we can do. What's Haresh said. What I love about these conversations is they encourage being and not proving. Absolutely. That's the whole point, isn't it? Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to say thank you to my panel who are not going to disappear the moment we stop broadcasting. They're going to hang around to talk to me. But I'm going to say thank you to the audience for joining in. If you think we did a good job, great. If you think we were rubbish, great. Either way, let us know where you stand and how you feel and what thoughts you might have on any other kind of collaborating conversation. Talk to you later. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.